Class is in memory of Jared Orchen, and today we will learn about the Sadduces, a movement that was in the time of the Second Temple, and we will learn it because it has to do with laws in this week's Parshah, quite a few laws. The Sadduces it started by the third generation of the Second Temple. In the ethics of our fathers, in Pirkei Avot, we read about Yosef ben Yoezer, a rabbi, and he was the third generation of Shimon HaTzadik, and then was Gamliel, I think, and he was the third generation. In any case, he made a statement, and this statement caused the beginning of a movement, at least according to some opinions. He said like this, he said, when you serve your master, when you serve God, do not serve him because he's going to reward you, or because it's the right thing to do. We have reward in the Torah itself in a few places. For example, one of the places that's written reward is where?
Shema.
In Shema. We're before the Shema.
Ten Commandments.
We're in the Ten Commandments.
You may live long in the land.
Page 263. We'll see it inside. Yeah, honor your
Respect
father
your
and mother. Honor your father and mother. 263 in top. I just want to read this line. Go ahead.
Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be lengthened upon the land that Adonai your God has given you.
You should live long. And it's written, and it will be good to you. It's written in the other place. Then there is, like you say in the Shema, if you will observe the commandment, God will give you on. Then came the rabbi and he said, no, I think it was Antignos. I'm sorry, it was Antignos Ish Sochor. No, who was it? I have to bring a seat just to make sure I don't make a mistake.
The ethics of the father, right?
I will not make a mistake. I'll remember what it was. This way it will not. Yeah, Yosef, no, Antignos said it. Antignos said that it was Shimon HaTzadik, and Antignos was the disciple of Shimon HaTzadik, the second generation. Shimon HaTzadik was the rabbi, he was the first high priest in the time of the beginning of the Second Temple. His disciple was Antignos. He said that in the name of his rabbi, Shimon HaTzadik, means it was right in the beginning of the Second Temple, it started the whole thing. And he said, do not be like this. Do not be like servant who serve their master for the sake of receiving a reward, but rather be like the servant who serve the master without the intent of receiving a reward. That's what he said. He had two disciples, this Antignos. One was Tzadok and one was Baitus. And they started to think, why is the rabbi tells us to work not for the reward? Obviously, he knows something we don't know. Obviously, he thinks that there is no reward after life. He wants to tell us, wants us not to disappoint us. He wants to tell us that, because Antignos said that in a way of, don't do it for the reward, do it because it's the right thing to do. Do it because Hashem told you to do it. Do it because it's the opportunity to connect to Hashem. But they translated in the wrong way. They said, he doesn't want us because there is no reward. And they started little by little a movement, and it was named after Tzadok, the Tzdukim, the Sadduces, or a movement who said that it's all idea, because they're all about reward and afterlife is not written in the Bible. They said that's not true. And they didn't believe in the resurrection of the dead because it's not written in the Bible. And they didn't believe in the Olam Haba, in afterlife, because it's not written in the Bible. They didn't believe in reward and punishment. And little by little it started a whole movement. That behind this movement was the concept was, we believe only in what's written in the 5 books of Moses. What's in the text. Whatever is not in the text doesn't exist. In Judaism, and Rabbinic Judaism, is just the opposite. It's not at all what is written in the text. It's all about what's not written in the text. The way we received it, the way we learned it, and so on and on. And in this week's Parshah, we have a perfect example for this. Very good. That's not so far. It's on page 298. Actually, we'll start on page 297. Number 22.
If men will fight and they strike a pregnant woman, causing her to miscarry, but there is no fatal injury to the woman, he, the guilty one, is to be punished with a monetary penalty. When the husband demands compensation, he shall pay as determined by the judges.
Okay. If two guys were fighting, and somehow she got involved in the fight, nobody called her down, and he hurt her, and she lost the babies, but she's okay. Then he has to pay a monetary penalty for it. Number 23.
However, if there is a fatal injury, you shall give up a life for a life.
Give up a life for a life.
This is one of the major verses supporting abortion. It's the source for abortion.
That is also abortion. It's
Okay.
not fair to say that it's also abortion. This is talking about an accident. If you have to kill a person for unintentionally now, one second. It says here, if he killed a woman, basically, then it's a life for a life, right? Let's see what Rashi says. However, if there is a fatal injury, go ahead.
Okay.
23.
Oh, 23. However, if there's a fatal injury to the woman, you shall give up a life for a life. Our sages have differing opinions regarding this matter. Some say that it means literally a life. Others, however, say it means monetary compensation, but not literally a life.
Why? Okay, that first of all, there is two opinions. One opinion says it's a life for a life. Nefesh tachat nefesh. You kill the woman, the person should be killed. Capital punishment. The other opinion says no. It's again a monetary payment. Why we don't kill him? Why you don't kill Mr. A when he killed the woman? Because...
Wait, I just have a quick question on that. Because
One second, let's just finish the thought. Go ahead.
Okay.
For one who intends to kill one person and kill another is exempt from the death penalty.
Oh, he didn't plan to kill the woman, right? She got involved. He had a fight with another guy. She got involved in the fight. Nobody called her there for whatever reason. Then it's not your business. Then he killed her, but he doesn't have to be killed because he didn't have an intention to kill the woman. Then what I mean to say is, you mentioned before about abortion. It does mean that abortion is kosher. He's not being killed for the abortion because he didn't plan to. I mean, he doesn't kill for the babies who died because he didn't plan to kill them. Then it cannot be any proof or anything. You understand what I'm saying?
I know a lot of people, traditionalists, use this as one of the sources for
But you
abortion,
understand,
obviously.
according to this opinion, even when you kill the mother, you are not being killed because it was unintentionally. The same thing is, I mean to say, it doesn't have to do with it doesn't make it kosher. That's what I'm saying. In any case, but in other places, nefesh tachat nefesh. If a person killed one, Mr. A, he will be killed. He will be put to death, and you're not allowed to take any money for it or anything. If Mr. A went intentionally to kill Mr. B, Jewish law says that Mr. A has to be put to death. That was the original Jewish law. Now, in reality, it was almost never happened. The rabbis have so many, what is the right word for it? So many rules around it, that it's almost impossible to put anybody to death in Jewish law, even in biblical times. For sure, today it's not used. It only can be done when there is a Sanhedrin. A Sanhedrin means a Beit Din of 71 rabbis, when they were sitting by the temple. Then we are talking already about something that didn't happen for 2,500 years. I mean, close to 2,000 years for sure. And the Beit Din had to be, there was only one Beit Din who can even put somebody to death. It's only in the Supreme Court in Jerusalem. And while they were sitting by the temple, if the Supreme Court, that Sanhedrin, moved to another city, they cannot do this anymore. Now, even when they were sitting there, there is a lot of laws that it makes it very complicated. You need to have two witnesses who warned Mr. A that if he will kill Mr. B, he will be deserving death. Two kosher witnesses. And these two witnesses are being interrogated from day and night until to prove that. And only if they saw it. A video will not be acceptable in the court. If you walk in and you see him holding it a knife and he's bleeding and the guy is bleeding on the floor, if you didn't see him killing him, doesn't make a difference. I mean, you cannot put him to death. And another very, very interesting law is, in America, the law is that if you need to have the jury has to be, all the 12 jurors have to agree, right? For capital punishment, for things like this. Yeah, it has to be, if not, it's a hung jury. Not for money. For money, everybody has to agree? No, but only for life. Only for capital punishment?
Mhm.
In Jewish law, if the 71 rabbis, judges, agree that this person has to be killed, it goes on. If all 71 rabbis will agree that this man has to be killed, it goes on. Why? Because they will now be witnesses. How is it possible that 71 rabbis, so no one of them saw the event, the incident, all of them agree that he has to be killed? Something is not right. Something is impossible. 71 rabbis agree on anything? Obviously they have an agenda, they hate him, that he goes on. It has to be a majority who agrees, but also not a small majority. It has to be two, more than it has to be 37 or whatever it is, two ahead more than they think that he deserves that, than two, a majority of two, not just of one more than the other side. In top of it, if the person himself is already being taken to be killed, he says, I have something to say for myself, they take him back to court, they reconvene the whole place, and they do it. The day that they have to come to this conclusion, they are fasting. The witnesses who give testimony, they're the one who have to kill him. They say, you said you have to do it, you do it. You're not sure? You're not sure? Then we don't do it. You guys have to do it. And so on and on, and there is many, many more laws about it. To make it impossible to kill a person. But the original law is you kill him. Rabbi Akiva was after the destruction of the temple, at least by the destruction of the temple, he said, if I would be sitting in the Sanhedrin, nobody would ever be killed. A Sanhedrin who killed one person in 70 years is considered a killing Sanhedrin, like a Sanhedrin who kills people. Basically, in reality, it almost never happened. But there is emergency rules, and that's a whole different. In any case, but the meaning is a life for a life. Now comes the next law, page 299.
24.
You want to read it, type?
Yes.
Please.
Compensation on eye for an eye, of a tooth for a tooth, of a hand and a foot for a foot.
Okay, if you see what's going on here, the word compensation of is in parentheses. In the text it's written an eye for an eye, a foot for a foot, an end for an end. Literally, Mr. A pulled out Mr. B's eye, you pull out his eyes. Here came the rabbis and said, no, we are not talking about literally taking out the other person's eye. How the rabbis knew it? Simple. They saw it in the Beit Din before them, in the court before them, and the generation before them, and 10 generations before them. Nobody ever did it. That's how they knew it. When Moses made the law, he said, it's not me, we don't mean literally. Because Jews never did it. They never pulled out anybody's eyes. They never burned anybody when he did it. What do you do? It's compensation. How you do the compensation? lawyers, how you measure the worth of a person. Even today you do it. How the insurance pay for it? What's the formula?
Well, there are economic ways of taking a look at it. There's pain and suffering. There's mental anguish. There's scarring.
Beautiful.
There are
That's
all
exactly how Jewish law says to do it. Tsar, ripui, sheves, baish, all of this, yes. And you pay the money. Why the rabbi said you cannot, it doesn't make sense to do it literally, because if Mr. A made the other guy lose his eyesight, but it's only 80% of he lost of his eyesight, but how exactly are you going to cost the other guy only 80%? Maybe you cost it 85, maybe 90, that you didn't do what you're supposed to do. It's not an eye for an eye. It's not fair. Then the pain that Mr. A has for pulling out his eye, Mr. B might have a much stronger pain and might put him risk his life and so on and on. What I mean to say is you can never do it exactly the same. And therefore, the rabbi says that you're not allowed to do it. And when Moses said, an eye for an eye, he said, I mean to say, to compensate. Why Moses said an eye for an eye, if he means compensation? Because he wanted to say, the Torah wants to tell us something, really we have to pull out your eye too. It's so terrible, that's what you really deserve. In reality, we are going to be nicer to you, kinder to you. The Sadduces, who were believing in the Bible, just the text, they said an eye for an eye. Right? If you have to take out an eye, whatever it's written, that they end up to be more cruel than the rabbinic Jews.
Did they actually enforce that? I mean, they didn't write
sure
things
they enforced
themselves, but
They enforced the law. I mean, in their Beis in their times, and they were in control, I'm sure they enforced the law. But what I mean to say is, it doesn't make a difference if they actually enforced or not. What I mean to say, the way that they learn the Bible, they are more cruel. Then we see that the way the rabbis explain the Bible, and the commentary of the rabbis is a more friendly commentary. It's a more loving to another, from Jew to Jew. Wherever there is a matter of not insulting or not hurting another Jew, the rabbis took always the easy commentary, the more lenient way of the law, not the stricter way. And the same thing is about a hand and about a leg. Continue about the foot.
Which one? 24?
Yeah, 25.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Compensation of a burn for a burn, wound for a wound, a bruise for a bruise.
A bruise for a bruise.
If a man-
Again, compensation, not a literal thing. It's only about compensation. And it started a long argument of hundreds of years between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. The Pharisees were the Jews, the rabbinic Jews, the Jews who learned who believed in the Talmud and the commentary. And the argument was on many parts in the Torah, many laws, because many laws are different. Where it's written in the Bible that you're not allowed to make a fire on Shabbat. לא תבערו אש בכל משמעותיכם ביום השבת. Where is this written?
Devarim.
It's in Dvarim. I think it's also not written anywhere in Shmois. No, here it's written if to observe the Shabbat. It's not written. In any case, it's written in the Torah. You not have to make a fire on Shabbat, right? The rabbis say you're not allowed to make the fire on Shabbos, but you can enjoy the fire on Shabbat. I mean, what does this mean? You're allowed to turn on the light before Shabbat and enjoy the light on Shabbat. You're allowed to turn on the stove before Shabbat and cover up the stove with a blech, right, with a metal, and then put the cholent on top of it and enjoy it. You're allowed to eating. Can you imagine sitting in Cleveland, 0 degrees like today, and we're not allowed to use on Shabbat eating that was turned on before Shabbat? You're allowed to do it. The Sadducees, they said, no, you're not allowed to do it. They said you're not allowed to have fire on Shabbos, to enjoy fire on Shabbat. That they were sitting in the dark, and they were cold, and eat cold food, no cholent. Can you imagine? Jewish people who survive without cholent?
Did they go to services?
No, I don't think it was not before the days of services. I mean, it started in the beginning of the Second Temple. I don't know how many services there. But what I mean to say is, That's one of the traditions why we eat cholent on Shabbos, is to prove that they are wrong, that we don't agree with them. That's why. What other mitzvah on Shabbat they didn't allow because of this philosophy?
Lighting candles.
Lighting candles. The whole idea of lighting candles for Shabbat is why you light the candles before Shabbos. You should enjoy the light on Shabbat. And the enjoyment has three explanations. One explanation is to bring peace in the home, that if the husband comes at night and walks into the house and he falls on something, and then who is he blaming his wife? You couldn't, why you put it in the middle of the room? Then to save the fight from Friday night, we have candles. The other explanation is in honor of Shabbat. Anytime when you have a special guest, you light candles. The third explanation, to eat. When you eat in the dark, you don't enjoy the food. In any fancy restaurant, they have candles on the tables, right? It's romantic. It's beautiful. Now, if you're a Sadducee, the Sadducee says you're not allowed to enjoy light on Shabbos. That the whole mitzvah of candle lighting that started with our mother Sarah, Abraham's wife, 4,000 years of Jewish women lighting candles every Friday night, was gone.
But it was written in the Torah.
It's not written in the Torah. Lighting candles is not written in the Torah. Good that you brought it. No, it's not written in the Torah. Lighting candles is not a biblical law, it's a rabbinic law. Sarah started it, but it's not written in the Bible. It's very good. That's one of the 7 rabbinic laws, is lighting candles. We say a blessing for it. La'adlik ner asher kiddushanu, God commanded us. And the Talmud says, and where God commanded us, it's not written in the Bible. It's written in the Bible that we have listened to the rabbis. That's the commandment. Then you write lighting candles, that was another, that's not written in the Bible, and therefore they said you don't do it. And many, many more laws. And we'll see even laws that are written in this week's Parshah are also, they were fighting, and usually their way was a much more painful way to do things. Wherever it was talking about respect and love of the Jewish people, the rabbi's interpretation of the law was more lenient. One second. There is a law. It's written here in this parsha about you're not allowed to cook a calf in his mother's milk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. Page 347. It starts on page 346, the verse. Then you want to read it? Number 19. 346, number 19, in top of the page.
My Pesach sacrifice?
Beginning of
19. Right
Oh,
here.
I see. Okay. The beginning of the first fruits of your land must be brought to the house of Adonai your Lord. You must not cook a young animal in the milk of its mother.
That's it. You must not cook a young animal in the milk of its mother. Now we'll see the Rashi. The Rashi on page 347, you must not cook a young animal.
A calf and a sheep are also implied in Gadi,
Because Gdi,
because Gadi represents any tender newborn animal, as can be inferred from the fact that you find in a number of places in the Torah that Gadi is written, and it is necessary to
okay,
explain
we'll
after.
skip this part. We'll go to the bottom of this page. The prohibition of lo tevashel gdi b'chalev imo is written 3 times in the Torah. You see it? Go ahead.
Once to prohibit the eating of meat cooked with milk, another to prohibit deriving any benefit from them, and once to prohibit cooking them.
Okay, it's written in the Bible, the same law 3 times. Do not cook the calf in his mother's milk. And the rabbis say 1 is for not cooking, 1 is for not eating, and 1 is for not selling, basically. You cannot sell a cheeseburger. If you have a non-kosher restaurant, you cannot sell cheeseburgers. Because you cannot benefit from milk and meat together. the Sadducees, that the all milk and meat together is not written clear in the Torah. Whatever it's not written clear in the Torah, I didn't find out what they did, but that's not in the Torah. That they also what was their interest in this way of learning things. Many things their life was much easier. They didn't have to observe many laws. It's not written in the Torah, I don't have to do it. And many laws in the Torah are not written clear. Then whatever they did was also a problem. It's already a commentary. That they had to make up their own rules no matter what. They said, we don't accept the commentary from the Bible. Then you have, then many things you must have a commentary. For example, you have to put a sign between your eyes, right, in the Shema, and your hand and your arm between your eyes. What's the sign that's not written? Whatever sign you're going to choose is a commentary. Then you say, I don't accept the commentary of a rabbi. It's okay, that you have to make up a commentary. You cannot say, I'm going by the literal text, because the literal text doesn't tell you what to do. And the Torah has many, many examples for it, that it doesn't let you tell you. Then, what I mean to say is, this is another example. Then the rabbis learned in this week's Parshah, Lo tevashel gdi v'chalev imo, and they didn't learn it this way. And eventually nothing was left from the Sadducees. You know anybody who is a descendant of a Sadducee? I never met one.
I was going to ask you.
Well, the Karaites adopted the same
Oh,
philosophy
the
later.
Karaites was a movement. The Sadducees disappeared by the end of the Second Temple. Then later, it was in the 5th century, maybe even later, maybe earlier, was a rabbi, was a head of, we say in the prayers, the exilarchs.
Yes.
Exilarchs means the head of the exile. They used to be in Babylon, used to be the head of the exile, like a king of the Jewish people. Once was a guy that he felt that he should be, his father died, he was the head of the Jewish people, he felt that they should appoint them, and they appointed his brother. In Jewish people, what do you do if you don't this? You open your own shul, right? And he went and he opened his own shul. He started his own movement, and they called themselves Karaites. And they, basically the same idea, a little bit different. They said that they accept the rabbinic law, but they also confused themselves and contradicted themselves and so on and on and on. And from them, there is a little bit left. Not much.
Not much.
They were in Egypt, a little bit of the Karaite movement. In Russia was at one point a little bit of the Karaite movement, but not left. They became a part of the Jewish people. Some of them assimilated, some of them joined the regular Jewish, traditional Jews, and that's it. Was not left from them much. What I mean to say is, here is another example. There is other examples in the Bible that they were different. There is a Talmudic story about Yochanan Kohen Gadol. In the time of the Second Temple, that was when they were very strong. In the good days, they controlled the Second Temple. The rich community, the powerful community, they were all Sadducees. The rabbinic Jews were the outside, the people who are weak. The strong Jewish community was Sadducees, because it was ultimately easier to be a Sadducee than to be a traditional Jew. And they were, at one point happened that Yochanan the high priest, who was a very righteous man, and according to the Talmud, he was 80 years serving as high priest. What does this mean to be 80 years high priest? It means to say that he walked into the Holy of Holies every year and came out alive. Obviously he was holy, right? Then the Talmud says 80 years. Whatever it was, he was for sure a holy man. And in the end of his life, he became a Sadducee. What it means he became a Sadducee? He stopped to believe. He denied afterlife. No reward, no afterlife, and he died. Then the Talmud says another story. Many years later, in the Talmudic time, was a guy with the name Elazar ben Durdaya. Elazar ben Durdaya was a guy who enjoyed life. And he was a womanizer. And the Talmud says that once he was with a woman, the prostitute, that he paid a lot of money, a ganze Meise, the most expensive one. And she told him, you will not, you're doomed. God will never accept your repentance, your tshuva. It's over. And when he heard it, for some reason, Her word like started to drive him crazy. And it started to bother him more and more and more. Finally, he went and he cried to do tshuva. He asked from God for tshuva, and he cried and cried and cried and cried and cried until he died. When a voice from heaven came out that said, they called him Rabbi. Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya is welcome to the world to come. At that time was a life Rebbe. Rebbe was Rabbi Yehuda the Prince. He was the one, Judah the Prince was the one who was the author of the Mishnah, right? He wrote down the Mishnah. That story is obviously, if Rebbe was alive, was 70 years after the destruction of the Second Temple. Something like this. He cried and he said, there is a person who buys his afterlife in 1 hour. It was almost a disappointment, We are here working every day, going to shul every Shabbos. And my neighbor, look at him! Is it fair? Then the question is, that's the story. Till here, and he ends the story, the Talmudic story. Then comes the book of Sefer HaGilgulim, I think. And they asked the book of the reincarnations. And they asked, in this book it's written, there is an old question, it's written everywhere. How can you get reward in the world to come? What means a reward? A reward means a retirement. You enjoying the retirement plan. You invest money, a whole life, then you have a retirement plan. But if you spent all your money, you didn't invest anything, there's no retirement. What do you mean he went to the Olam Haba? There is no Olam Haba. He didn't do any mitzvah. How could he have Olam Haba? There is nothing there for him. Comes the Arizal, and he says that Elazar ben Dodaya was a reincarnation of Yochanan the high priest. And Yochanan the high priest, when he came to heaven, he had a big Olam Haba, he had a huge apartment, a huge portfolio ready for him. But he couldn't open the door. They told him, you, Olam Haba, didn't you deny that? You said there is no Olam Haba, right? Goodbye. You cannot get something you don't believe in. Then he came back. This time he had fallen all his life. But before he died, he did tshuva. He repented and he believed in everything. Now he got the key for his reward from his past life, that he walked on his past life. And therefore, he was able to go to Olam Haba. But this is a story about a guy who was a traditional Jew for a lifetime, and before he died, he became a Sadduces, and he had to come again to the world to be able to cash in for all his good lives that he did, all his good mitzvahs that he did throughout his life. Now, there is other places in the Bible where he talks about, where the Sadducees had an argument with the Pharisees. It's in the book of Deuteronomy in 2 places, or in 3 places. Maybe it's worth it even to take out the book, because it will be easier to explain. You want to take the book? The 5th book, the last book. And in this way we will be able to share it with everybody. But another thing, thank you. For example, we have the holidays, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. In counting of the Omer, there is an argument between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. They said the next day after Shabbat you count the Omer. That's what the way it's written in the Bible literally. The Talmud says it's not the next day after Shabbat, it's the day after Pesach. They say, and therefore when they used to bring the Omer to the temple, they used to make a big stink in the time of the Second Temple to make a point. Then we don't accept the way the Sadducees believe. The same thing in Sukkot. There is a law in Sukkot. Then they used to bring water. They used to go to a river, to a spring in Jerusalem. It's called in Moza. Used to draw some water and bring it to the temple and pour it. And in the altar was a special hole to pour the water inside. That was a mitzvah that you did it every Sukkot. And you did it as was a way to pray for rain, for the winter, for water. But it's not written in the Bible clearly. Then the Sadducees didn't believe in that. Then the story goes, the Talmud tells a story, I think it was Yanai HaMelech, was a Jewish king, but he was a convert, whatever, he was a Sadduces. And he came to the temple, he was honored to be the one to pour the water. And because he didn't believe in it, he poured the water on his feet. The whole crowd was in the temple, about traditional Jews who comes to the temple. The other guys are not busy with the temple. They got so upset with him, they started to throw on him the etrogs. It was Sukkot. Everybody had etrogs. They bombarded him with etrogs. He had an army of non-Jewish soldiers. He ordered his army in, and it was a massacre inside the temple. Terrible story. It was all because of the fight of the Sadducees and the Pharisees, how to, if it's a traditional way. And that's why in the time of the second temple, the idea of pouring the water on Sukkot used to be done with a big celebration. Everybody used to come to the temple, used to dance all night, and early in the morning they used to go with a big parade to bring the water and to... Why need a big parade? Many mitzvahs were done in the temple, the Kohen did it and moved on. Because the Sadducees were the one who said that this is not written in the Bible, we shouldn't do it, the rabbis made a whole big event of it to make a point that we disagree with them. Every time when you see there is some big event and you ask yourself, why the rabbis made such a big deal about it? Could very well be because they were people who were doubting it. We don't have to do it, that's not a tradition, it's not written, and so on and on. There is another two places in the Bible, in the book of Deuteronomy, in Parshat Ki Teitzeh, two laws. You know the laws of a Levirate woman? If a person was married and he died without children, right? His wife has to, and his wife doesn't have children, that the brother of the husband should marry the woman. You're talking time of the Bible, you were allowed to marry more than one wife. Then he has an obligation. Why? The Torah says because this is how you continue your brother's name. Your brother's name should not be erased from the Torah, from life, from the world. Where is it? Somewhere to say it. In any case, what if his wife tells him, "You marry her, you are out of here. Forget about it," and he gets an ultimatum? What then is he supposed to do? Huh?
Go to the next relative.
But what is he? No, he doesn't. She doesn't go. In the bottom line, she doesn't go to the next relative. What is he has to do? He is obligated to marry her. What is he has to do? How we disconnect yourself from? She has an obligation to him. He has an obligation to her. They're like married to a point. They don't have to give a get. What he's supposed to do? That's something. It's called chalitza. You ever heard about chalitza? Yeah. What do you do?
Take off the shoe.
Yeah.
Spit in the face.
What?
Spit in the face.
Oh. What's the story? Yeah. Oh, here is the text. You know what? Who didn't read yet? Take this
Go all the
book.
way over.
I think it's in top of the page there. Read the text in top of the page.
293. Okay. If brothers reside together, is that the one?
Yes. Yeah.
And one of them dies having no son, let the wife of the dead man not marry outside the family
Continue.
to a strange man. Her brother-in-law will consummate with her, thus marrying her to be his wife, and perform levirate marriage with her. It shall be that the firstborn, when she is capable of bearing children, shall be established in place of his deceased brother, so that his name may not be obliterated from Israel.
Beautiful. Then here is the law. She cannot marry somebody else. She has an obligation to she can say she doesn't like him, he can say he doesn't like her, but the original law is that the better way is that he marries she marries his brother. Then the Torah continues if he doesn't want to. Go ahead.
But if the man will not want to marry his sister-in-law must go up to the portal to the judges and say, My brother-in-law refuses to establish for his brother a name in Yisrael. He is unwilling to perform levirate marriage with me.
Oh, no. He doesn't want to do it, right? Okay, continue the text.
The judges of his city will call him and converse with him. He shall stand and say, I do not want to marry her. And his sister-in-law will approach him in the sight of the judges, and she will remove his shoe from upon his foot and spit before him. And she will say aloud, this is done to the man who will not build his brother's family.
Okay, that's a story.
Isn't this a story of Yehuda and Tamar?
That's basic story of Yehuda and Tamar.
Yeah.
It's a little different because
Right.
it's not written that our father-in-law has to marry. That's what you said, another person in the family. But the bottom line, the law is that the brothers have to do it.
But the brothers
But the brother already,
must be, yes.
they already went through a cycle where the brother,
Yeah, in this case,
intervene.
by Jewish law, you will not have a relationship. No, the father-in-law is not obligated. It was in the biblical time. It was extended, so to speak. People did it even for more, but the law is only the brothers.
In the book of Ruth, it extended.
The
it.
book of Ruth, exactly, it
Yeah.
extended. You're right, and Ruth was not even. Yeah, that was Boaz, according to the Medrash, was Elimelech's brother. He was an uncle, not even anything. To Ruth, he was nothing. I mean, he was the uncle of Ruth's husband, basically.
And somebody else had turned it down before him. Right?
Yeah, another brother.
Okay.
It was Ploni Almoni was another brother who wanted to. They asked him, "You want to marry?" You're right. Then what do? She takes off his shoes and she spit. The way it's written in the text, spits before him. Literally means spitting him in his face. The rabbi said, "No. Look the Rashi there. There is a Rashi for the spitting. Where's the word spitting there?"
and spit before him, it says on the ground.
On the ground. The rabbi said, not in his face, but on the ground, in front of him, not before him, not on him. There is another example where the Sadduces are doing the most harsh way, the most not respectful way, and where the Jewish law, where the rabbi said it's not literally in his face, it's only on the floor in front of him. It's true, he didn't do the right thing, he didn't want to marry his sister-in-law, he's a bad boy, but it doesn't mean you have to spit him in his face.
Are these simply differences in interpretation, or is it an argument that a separate source is more authoritative?
No, here is the difference. The Sadducee says we don't need sources. We read whatever it's written.
It's a literal interpretation
Exactly.
of the text.
And the rabbi said no such thing as a literal interpretation.
But of course, literal interpretation got to be very popular as a method of interpretation in the Middle Ages. I mean, Rashi's kind of started it, and then his grandson was much more literal. Ibn Ezra, very literalist as well.
Literal as a commentary, not as a law. You understand?
Okay.
There is a difference. Sometimes Rashi explains, gives a commentary to the Bible, to a law in the Bible that's not what it's practiced. You understand? The commentary of Rashi he says that's a literal explanation. What is practiced is what we have from a tradition. We don't go by the literal side. Here is a perfect example. What would be an example? There is a law in the Torah that says you're not allowed to add to the mitzvahs, you're not allowed to subtract to the mitzvahs. What does this mean? Now Rashi says you're not allowed to add to the mitzvah itself. Let's say every tzitzit is of four string. It's 8, but really it's 4, right? Or 4 tablets. We have 4 corners, right? You're not allowed, I'm sorry, it was 4 corners in a talus. Rashi says, what means you're not allowed to add? You're not allowed to add 5 corners to a talus, to say, or 3, or subtract. But you're allowed to add a new mitzvah. That's what Rashi says. The Jewish law is accepted. No, you're not allowed to add another mitzvah. Then you'll ask me how the rabbis added mitzvahs. They never said it's a mitzvah from the Bible. You're not allowed to add a mitzvah and say the Torah said that you have to do this and this. The rabbis came and say, we say that you have to do it. But they don't say the Torah said it. You understand? They don't add it. They don't say, in addition to the 630 mitzvahs, somebody will come and say there are 640 mitzvahs. But here is an example where Rashi translates the text in one way, Now, I think the Rambam translates the text in another way, and in the way of Jewish law is like Rambam. You understand what I'm saying? My man is not like Rashi. Then commentary to the Bible in the literal way. Go ahead. Changing the Jewish law because of it? Absolutely not.
So what then is the source of the Jewish law? I mean, if you take a look at the biblical text, do you then start there and then apply an interpretive method? Like, do you interpret literally, do you interpret metaphorically, or do you then say, well, let's go to the oral law instead, and that's where we find the source of law? Or how does that
No,
work?
it's a combination of these two. The job of the rabbis was to find for every tradition that they knew, where is the source in the Torah. As I started to say in the beginning of the class, how you know how to put on film? So your father taught you, your grandfather taught you. That's tradition. How you know what a lulav and a etrog is? What's a etrog? Etrog is a word that doesn't use today. There is no etrog tree. We know it from the Jews. Give the Bible to some human being who lives in Chveisnishvon, on the moon, and he reads it in English. Etrog tree, etrog. He's going on Google, he's looking for the word. There's no etrog tree. It's a biblical word for something that doesn't. Then only if the Bible, because you have from tradition, your father showed you how you know the difference in an etrog and a lemon. It looks the same. You go to the store to tell you that's a etrog, how you know? Because you know there is a tradition that these trees are etrog trees, and my father had them, my grandfather, my great grandmother, my great. Then it's all about tradition. Judaism is based on tradition. Now, what the rabbis do, as I said in the beginning, an eye for an eye. Comes up, a Sadduces says, it's written in the Bible, an eye for an eye. Doesn't, hey, don't get too excited. I never saw my father pulling out anybody's eye. And the rabbi in Shul didn't do it to this. And the rabbis of the rabbis never did it. And they didn't do it in Jerusalem, and not in Tel Aviv, and not in Lud, and not in Cleveland. Obviously, something is not right here. Obviously, we don't learn that in a literal sense. That the rabbis did not need... It was so clear when they came to this line, it was known. Nobody is doing it. Obviously, that's not a literal sense. You understand what I'm saying? And the rabbis had a tradition, and then they had also, it was a tradition how to translate everything in the Torah. How you learn, how you compare one thing from the other, and that's how they came to the conclusions.
Does the tradition then go back to Sinai in terms of the oral law being from God, or does the tradition go back as a human tradition then?
It's from Sinai coming from God. It's written that when Moses was at Mount Sinai, it was 40 days and 40 nights. What was he doing? No movies, no internet, no nothing. Not even cell phones, iPhones. Then he will learn the whole Torah. Then the Talmud says how that Moses knew when it's day and when it's night. When God was teaching him the written Torah, it was day. When he was teaching him the commentary, it was night. The oral tradition was night. And the basic of the oral traditions were given from Sinai. Obviously, it was developed and revealed and so on and on. But he gave the rules, so to speak. Like American law is being involved, but it has to be based on something, right? You cannot make up your own laws. The same thing is Jewish law. It's based on the Torah. And when God says, listen to the rabbis, that means whatever the rabbis will do, that's the will of God, to listen to them. That even if the rabbis made a mistake, that was the will of God. You understand?
The legal concept would be delegating authority to someone else, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's delegating from generation to generation. And that's why it's called the people who give over the tradition from Sinai. There is a whole list in the Ethics of Our Fathers, in Maimonides, of names of rabbis who gave over the tradition from whom. Basically, it's giving over the Torah from generation to generation. Then we are not the people of the book. You understand what I'm saying? The Sadduces are the people of the book. You know who gave us the name the people of the book? Who gave us the name?
The Muslims.
The Muslims. See, the Jews didn't give the name the people of the book. We are the people of the tradition who has a book, and the tradition tells us how to understand the book. From a book? You cannot know from a book. Because you need to understand what did this mean, how you translate it, how you read it, how you deal with it. There's a statement in the Bible, what's going on here? So, every time people come and tell me, it's written in the Bible, you have to kill the Amalekites, I can't believe it's written such a thing. Tell them, wait 1 second. Close the book for a second. Anybody around you killing anybody? No. That's a tradition. The book will work this out. Everything that's written, I'll explain.
Is it fair to say then that at least in this context, the oral tradition is an interpretive tradition of the text?
It's sure. Interpret. Yeah, it explains. It's a commentary. Interpretive and a commentary to the tradition, to the text.
I mean, it obviously adds to the text in other areas, but when it comes to a textual issue,
Absolutely, I don't take the text for face value. Absolutely not. In anywhere, not about any holiday.
now I understand that applies in law in non-law issues and more philosophical issues. Is it the same way?
For example, what do you mean?
In the Shema, what does one God mean? I mean, that's a philosophical issue. I mean,
I give an example. It's written. I think it's written some places in the Bible. The eyes of God, right? I'm sorry. The eyes of God are in the land of Israel, and upon the land of Israel. Do we take it literally that God has eyes? No. That you're right. Even in philosophical issues, we will go with the tradition. Yes, we will not take it as Bible in a literal sense. In everything.
how do we explain the kind of literalist tradition coming out of the Middle Ages that did start emphasizing the literal interpretation over the metaphorical interpretation?
I mean, it's again, it's to understand the text. You can to learn the text.
Yeah.
That's. I don't think Rashi was the literalist in the way the Sadduces were. Even Rashi's commentary, he took the most literal explanation from all the commentaries that are in the Talmud. Let's say in the Talmud there is available 3 explanations to this text. That Rashi took the most, the easiest way to understand the text on the most literal level. But he didn't make up his own commentary. You understand what I'm saying? Rashi took from the Talmud. He chooses there is 2 commentaries to it in the Gemara and 1 in the Medrash. And Rashi he made a combination of all 3 of them, and he came up with this commentary. But he didn't make up his own commentary on his own. And that's what it's very important to understand it.
Is the oral Torah commentaries always evolving, like Tanya? Can it keep going on?
What do you mean?
Like, can you?
It could be evolved, absolutely.
Can you come up with something nice?
Yeah, every Jew should, as an obligation. We say it in the Amidah, the last line in the Amidah. After we finish the Amidah, we say, "May it be your Lord, right, Lord our God and God of our fathers, that the Beit HaMikdash be speedily rebuilt in our days." And what's the last part? And grant us our portion in your Torah. It means grant us our portion in your Torah means that every Jew has his portion in the Torah, where he has to come up with something new. What has to be based on everything, on the basics and the rules that Moses taught us how to learn the Torah. But yeah, well, listen, if you give a commentary, if it's not true, nothing happened, as long as you don't change the Jewish law. You say, that's my opinion. If it's the more proofs that you have in the Bible and in the Talmud for your opinion, the stronger it is. But it's still, you're not going to change the law. The law is the law, and that's why anybody comes and says, "Oh, we should do it differently." What they tell them? That we have a tradition like this. That's why, by Judaism, tradition is such a powerful thing, because it's all based on it. There is a famous story about Hillel the Older. It was an argument in the time. In his time, Hillel was in the time of the Second Temple, right? And it happened to be, Pesach happened to be on Shabbat. It means the first Seder happened to be on Shabbat. And they had a question. What should you do? Are you allowed, the sacrifice, the Passover lamb has to be slaughtered before the Seder. It means if the Seder is Saturday night, Saturday afternoon you have to slaughter the animal. On Shabbat you're not allowed to slaughter animals regularly. The question is, the Passover lamb overriding Shabbat or not? For example, the Shabbos sacrifice overrides Shabbat. In our life, a bris you can do on Shabbos. I did my grandchild's bris was on Shabbos, because the mitzvah of bris overrides Shabbat, overrides even Yom Kippur. Then the question was, the Pesach lamb overrides Shabbat or not? The rabbis at that time were from Bnei Betera, from a family, from a city in Batir. Batir was somewhere in the Hermon, in the Galilee, and the Golanite, somewhere around there. In any case, they didn't know the answer. Finally, they said there is one immigrant, his name is Hillel, and he knows. Maybe call him. They called Hillel, and Hillel was the disciple of the rabbis before Shmaya and Naftalion, who were actually two converts. And he said he started to bring proofs from the Bible and from the Talmud and from the this, and he started to say, if you're allowed to, it's called Kal Vachomer, if you're allowed to every Shabbos to slaughter the Shabbos animal, if 200 sacrifices are allowed to override Shabbat, why not the Pesach sacrifice? And he brought more proofs. All of them, they said, yeah, no. Finally he said, I have a tradition from my rabbis that you're allowed to do it. Oh, you have a tradition? Now you're talking. That the tradition they accepted. Because when you say, I saw my Rebbe doing it, an explanation, a logic, we can twist it in many ways. But when you say, that's the way I saw my Rebbe doing it, that's the way I saw my parents doing it, and if your parents or your Rebbe was a traditional Jew, somebody that you can trust, that's stronger than everything. And that's what it's all about. That when in the movie, in Fiddler on the Roof, they say tradition. They are very right.